Oh, that's a nice looking installation.
Thanks, we enjoy it.
Can you describe it to me?
This is a medium-size EPA-certified non-catalytic stove connected to double-wall flue pipe running up into a high-temp factory-built metal chimney.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. Can you go through that again one step at a time? What does EPA certification mean?
It refers to a regulation put in place by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency back in the late 1980s, requiring all wood stoves to meet stringent smoke emissions limits. To be certified, a stove must put out less than 7.5 grams of smoke per hour. This one is certified at 3.2 grams per hour. On average, EPA-certified stoves emit around 90% less smoke than older, conventional, so-called airtight stoves.
You also said something about catalytic.
Yes, this is a non-catalytic stove which uses firebox insulation, internal baffling, and preheated combustion air distributed around the firebox to burn the wood completely. Catalytic stoves pass the wood smoke through a catalyst-coated ceramic honeycomb where it burns cleanly.
I see. So whether the stove is catalytic or non-catalytic, it burns the smoke inside instead of letting it go up the chimney. It's nice that these stoves don't pollute the neighborhood, but are there other advantages?
Oh, sure. These things use about 1/3 less wood for the same heat output than older stoves. That's a lot less cutting, splitting, stacking, and hauling. Plus, they're a lot easier to use.
I see you have a full wood box and some newspaper and kindling all ready to go.
Right, I'll get to that in a minute, but first I'd like to remove some of the ash from the last fire that we had so that it doesn't get in the road of the new fire that we're about to build. This stove has an ash pan, but you can also use a shovel and ash bucket. Notice this tool I'm using? It's a rake, and it's the most important tool for managing heating fires. I've just used it to rake the ashes into the ash pan, but I'll show you later why it is so important. Okay, now we're ready to build a fire. The main goal in starting a fire from scratch is to heat the stove and chimney fast, creating the conditions for a clean, efficient burn. The thing to avoid is having your kindling fire collapse on itself, which slows everything down and makes a lot of smoke.
Does that mean there's only one right way to build a fire?
No, not at all. For example, one way to build a fire that heats fast and doesn't collapse is by using 2 parallel logs with a space between them, like this. Then you crumple some newspaper between them and some kindling on top. I like to build top-down fires.
Top-down? Really?
Sure. Here, take this newspaper and roll up some single sheets corner to corner into tubes. Then tie a knot in each tube.
You've got to be kidding.
Just do it. You'll see what I mean. Well, Now, 4 or 5 newspaper knots go on top, like this. These knots work great because they don't move around as they burn the way crumpled newspaper does. Set the air control fully open and close the door.
And why do you build fires top-down?
Well, as I said, they don't collapse and smother themselves. Also, I don't have to keep opening the loading door to tend the fire and add more kindling like you do with a regular fire. This fire should be good for 2 hours or so without attention. And top-down fires start up with very little smoke. Want to see?
You just lit that fire a few minutes ago.
That's why I like building top-down fires.
I'm impressed.
Let's head back inside. At least 3 at a time to create a sheltered pocket of glowing coals where the fire can get started. The idea is to ignore the fire until the room or house starts to cool off slightly, and then reload it. Notice the remaining coal bed is at the back of the firebox, furthest from the door. That is because most of the combustion air enters the firebox through this slot and reaches the fire at the front, so the fire burns from the front to the back.
And that air keeps the glass clear too, right?
Yes, it's called glass air wash. We rake the coals forward like this, so that they are just inside the loading door. Then we'll place the new load of wood on and behind the coals. That way the combustion air reaches the coals first, then the wood, and we get fast ignition. A load of wood breaks down more slowly when placed east-west because the air isn't able to penetrate the load as much as it does a north-south load. That makes east-west loading better for mild weather when you want low heat over an extended period. North-south loading is better in very cold weather, both because it tends to burn faster and hotter, and you can fit more wood in the firebox because it can't roll out.
I never knew that.
East-west. I put the biggest piece in first, then the next, and put the smallest piece of firewood on the coals. That's my igniter.
I see what you're doing. You put the small piece on the coals where it'll ignite first.
Right, and I put the larger pieces towards the back where they will break down slowly to extend the burn. Now I close the door and set the air control to fully open.
Look at that, your smallest piece is already ignited.
Exactly, that's the whole idea, a fast start and very little smoke. This is exactly what I wanted to show you, that using a good stove, good fuel, and good technique, you don't get smoke. Plus, by burning the smoke in the stove and not letting it escape up the chimney, you get much higher efficiency. More heat with less wood.
Thanks, Vanessa. I really appreciate your teaching me all this new stuff.
You're very welcome. Be sure to let me know how you make out.
You bet I will. Thanks again.